I feel like there's not a lot of advice that I can give. I mean, my ways literally killed people. But I mean, if I had to say anything, it would pick your circle wisely. Your circle will eventually make you who you are. And I mean, another thing that I learned was Jesus has to become our safe space. My safe space was always a bottle of pills. Anything bad happened, that's straight where I would go. I remember my grandpa died once, and the first place I went was my dealer's house. That has to change. Jesus has to be our safe space. And I mean, really, at the end of the day, we just have to humble ourselves before He does it for us. I mean, I thank God for saving me. I just wish that it didn't take what it took to get my attention. And I don't want to see anybody else have to have to go through it that far. I just want people to realize that I mean, He is God. He's there. He always is. I mean, it's I honestly I think it was Pastor Sean that told me once. I mean, it doesn't matter how many steps you take away from Him, it's only one step to get back. My name is Shea Coffee, and I was a drug addict for over 10 years. Uh, Even in the middle of that addiction, I didn't know God, but He had His hand on me throughout my whole life. A lot of the memories I have, like my first ones, I mean, it's just domestic violence. Uh, my mom married a lot when I was a kid, and she went through different guys. I mean, they were different, but they were all the same. I mean, there was a lot of violence. I mean, probably the youngest I remember was, gosh, I was probably 4 or 5 years old, and mom married this guy, and he was a little out there. I mean, it was just a normal night for him to beat on her. I mean, there was shot at her a couple of times, and I mean, this was just like the basic theme running up until I was in high school. Was just different men would show up, and they would all start off the same. Then a mask would come off, and it would get bad. Hours of just violence, going to bed not knowing if I was gonna wake up and find somebody dead, and just the sounds, like the sounds of physical violence. It's just enough to, I don't know, it's something else. But I mean, this went on until I was in yeah, I was in high school. So I mean, I'm honestly like addiction never really started until after high school, but like before, like I mean, I was probably seven, 8 years old first time I tried alcohol. Uh, yeah, I mean, I started towards the end of high school. Like somebody introduced me to pills. It was just hit and miss there. I mean, it wasn't really. I mean, honestly, I mean, I'm kind of just circling back and forth, but I mean, honestly, like the bad outweighs the good in my childhood. I don't remember a lot of good.
That must have been tough.
So about a year or so after I graduated high school, I mean, I'd been working in a factory, uh, contracted through the government to make tents for the military, and it's kind of where I got full blown into pills. I was introduced to OxyContin, and that ruined my life. Uh, so after like a year or so of just spiraling, I tried to make a change, and joined the army. Left for basic in September 2004. Went in as a diesel mechanic. I got to my first duty station in 2005 in Fort Hood, Texas. Was attached to the 4th Infantry Division. Within 6 months of being in my first unit. You know what I mean? They stood our unit up. We deployed to Iraq, December 2005. I was in Baghdad, and that was that was an experience. I mean, it was everything was still popping off pretty good over there, and I mean, it's I'm not gonna say I was out there every day kicking doors in, but I mean, it was an experience I'll never forget.
Must have been scary sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it'd be more than one occasion. I can remember, laying in Iraq at night. I mean, we lived in a bombed out Iraqi army barracks. I remember laying in my cot at night, and they'd, you know, they'd be out doing controlled deaths on bombs off the base, and I mean, the force of the explosion would be enough to blow you out of the bed. And I mean, you never knew when you were gonna walk outside and a mortar would drop on you. I mean, they were constantly lobbing them into the base as they drove by. I mean, just it was. I mean, it got a little rough, and I mean, civilian contractors over there. So I mean, you go get alcohol whenever you want, and it kind of fueled into my addiction. I got looking for somewhere to fit in. I got involved with a bunch of people, and I wound up joining a gang, and that was a whole different experience in itself.
Must have been wild, Southern Kentucky boy out there in a street gang.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it's even like it's more like I don't know, just an alien thought of somebody coming where I'm from, and that, like I was the only white person that run in this group, and I mean that's why I later I came a blood looking for family, and I mean it was an experience. I mean I did a lot of stuff I'm not proud of, and I mean a lot of guys I don't know where they're at now. I'm sure some of them's probably dead. I mean I lost contact with a lot of them. I mean honestly I hope one day I can see them sitting somewhere like this.
Yeah. God willing, maybe they found their way out of it.
But yeah, and it's after I got back from my first deployment, I broke. Like I wound up getting diagnosed with PTSD. Started drinking so much more pills, like whatever I could find. I mean, I was taking pain pills. I started X, and I'd come home on the weekend. And I got into meth, and that's only by the grace of God that wasn't something else that like I was never addicted to meth,
Thank God.
and that's just by the grace of God. You know, 6 months after I got back from my first deployment, I was with another unit in Fort Campbell. I got re-enlisted and transferred, and I got part of the 101st. And when it was 6 months after I came back, I was gone again. The first time was a 12-month deployment. The second time was 15. I was in Baghdad again. Wasn't as exciting as the last time, so I mean it was still war. I mean you still really didn't know if you was gonna wake up or not. You didn't know if you was gonna roll out the gate and hit a bomb, get shot. I mean it didn't. But I mean that's what both deployments I spent running. Like I was a gunner both deployments. First time in a tank, second time in a Humvee, and that was I mean I ran security both deployments. And I come back from my second deployment. Met my wife. Me and her got married, and that was when she really realized who I was. Like she didn't know the person I was until we moved in together. I mean, I cheated. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that I did that I mean, and then wound up doing like a couple stints in like a psych ward. All the problems that I had, I wound up getting medically discharged. PTSD, my back. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that just. So I got out of the army in 2011, moved back home. Decided that I kind of needed to make a change. Like I needed to get off the pills. So I sought the VA out, and they put me on Suboxone, which honestly, if it's used the right way, would probably help. But for me, it was just another excuse to abuse something. So now instead of paying for it, the VA was supplying all the medication that I needed: sleeping pills, anxiety medicine, antidepressants, Suboxones, whatever. And this went on for 2 or 3 years. And then 2014, there was a day that changed my life forever. I had an appointment at the VA that day, and came back. Me and my wife got into it over my drug use. She finally had enough and decided she wanted a divorce. So I left to cool off, and I never did come home that night. On my way back, I was in a car wreck. Took the lives of two people that I didn't know. I hit them head on my way home, and I wound up spending a month in ICU in UT hospital. Crushed both of my legs, uh, broke my pelvis, lacerated my spleen. I broke 6 ribs. I had a blood clot in my lung. I tore a lot of stuff in my neck. I had a traumatic brain injury. So I spent a month in there. I got out. Was in a wheelchair for about 6 months. A month or so after I got to walking again, a cop showed up in my driveway. Knew what they were there for. I went outside, and they had a warrant for my arrest for 2 counts of murder. They arrested me and took me to county jail, set my bail at $100,000 cash. I spent, a month in county before, like, threats made on my life was the only reason I got out. Uh, Year and a half on house arrest, kind of fighting this battle, legal battle. Wound up pleading out to reckless homicide and second-degree manslaughter. Sentenced to 7 years. Wound up in North Point Training Center. Uh, Classes and all that stuff. Like I wound up getting out within a couple of years, and that's honestly that's what God used to give me my new start. And since then, I mean, every day is a second chance that I shouldn't have had. And I mean, I can't lose it. I can't mess it up again. First church that I ever actually got into was actually here at Hope City. A month or two after I started coming here, I wound up being able to give my testimony here for a Celebrate Recovery service. And since then, I've been working, with the Celebrate Recovery pastor. God has used what I've been through to allow me to go into rehabs and the Job Corps and just different places to tell my story and, just try to give people hope that if God can save me, that He can save anybody. I mean, I relate myself to Paul. I mean, I'm the chief of sinners, and if He can save me, He can do it for anybody. And that's just, I just, my one wish is just to see everybody come to Christ.